All right, welcome into another edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap, episode 4. Corey Moen, Evan Byrne. Let's just get right.
Jump right in.
Yeah, it's all right. Just say I couldn't post to Facebook, so we're good. Off to a good start. Let's get right into it. So for this season, because I know last week, the Bucks only played one game. So throughout this whole season, because the Bucks are going to be playing multiple games the next time we record. So what we're going to do for this podcast, and this is not just for Evan, this is for everyone, obviously, is we're going to talk about the highs and the lows for the Bucks for each week. We're going to talk about the good stuff and stuff that didn't go so well that they need to work on. For an example, if say Giannis doesn't shoot well from the line, we're gonna talk about that. If our 3-point shooting isn't good, we're gonna talk about that. Good individual performances, that's obviously going to be a high. So, that's going to be the plan for this podcast going forward. Because again, sometimes they play 3 weeks and 4 nights, 3 games, 4 nights. Sometimes they just play a lot of games. So we're going to start with the highs because we're keeping it positive here. Giannis has 44 points in 28 minutes against the Rockets. Nothing he does surprises me anymore. And I knew the Rockets didn't have people to guard him. But good
at all.
Lord, he looked as dominant as I've ever seen him. What was your thoughts on Giannis's performance against the Rockets last Saturday?
It was honestly 28 minutes is not a lot of time, and I think a lot of people don't realize how big of a scoring that is for 44 points. But because that was the game that I went to, and you just see the Rockets are one of the teams where I don't know a lot of the guys on, but when you see some of those guys out there and you've never heard of them or they're brand new guys, I think it's a lot easier to read them for Giannis's sake. You have Jabari Smith at their power forwards, obviously their new rookie. Then you have Garuba, I believe his last name was. So these guys that aren't Giannis level, Jabari Smith could be Giannis level soon. But it was, I think, a lot easier for him to just take it to the paint. He only missed 4 shots, one of them being a 3. So again, it wasn't something that we were not going to see, but scoring 44 and 28 points is one of the top performances, I think, that a lot of people are, I don't know, looking over, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I don't. And again, and we talked about on our second podcast, I believe, that we were given a mini preview of the game. And I think I said something along the lines of, I think this is a good game for Giannis to have a dominant performance, which he inevitably did because, because I was looking at some of these rosters before the year, and there weren't a lot of memorable guys on the Rockets because it's such a young team with Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., guys like that. Jabari Smith, obviously, but there was nothing that Giannis did in that game that surprised me, and it wasn't even just Giannis. I believe Jrue Holiday also had a big performance in that game as well.
Yeah, he only had 5 points, but he had 10 assists.
Okay, it was Brook Lopez then.
Yes, he 9 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Bobby had a good game, 13, 8. So a lot of Jrue Holiday had 19. My bad. 19, 5, and 10. So yes, he had the good game. Just a lot of 2 guys who really stepped up, and then a lot of staggering guys who contributed, not a lot, but it was very even throughout, which built up. And Marjon Beauchamp played and scored his first career points.
Yes.
Right at the end of the game.
We needed Marjon minutes. Like we mentioned before, Marjon is going to be your guy this year. Serge Ibaka is my guy. Serge Ibaka is finally getting in. I didn't think he'd be in many games, but thank goodness he's finally getting in. But the only blemish from Giannis in the Rockets game was the BS technical foul they called on him.
Yeah, that was dumb, but it was kind of funny. It was like they were up by enough where it was like, okay, like that was kind of stupid. But yeah, he did like the 1, 2. I think he did just 3 for like an and one, and then they teed him up. But he was shimmy. He's like 1. Like he was like overdoing it, but it was like, come on. Like there's some things where people don't get technicals, and like that's your technical.
They must have considered that taunting. I don't know. I wouldn't have called it, but the NBA can be soft sometimes. A little too much celebrating can warrant a technical. So, yeah, that was just an insane stat line that, again, nothing Giannis does anymore just surprises me.
No, and he had some really tough finishes too. I know he had a dunk end of the first quarter into the second, but he also had 1 and 1 like layup that I thought he was going to dunk, and I would have left. It would have been one of those plays where it's like that was worth the ticket of admission.
And now he's like the only athlete that I regularly watch where it's just like, oh my God, how did he do that?
Yeah, it's like if you've never seen him play in person or like actually watch him, he's again just like one of those. He's like the basketball of some of these top players for other sports. It's like it amazes you every single time, no matter how many times you've seen him do it. It never gets old. It's one of those things.
All right. Yeah, so Giannis obviously dominant, 44 points in 28 minutes. Next up, the great purple uniforms getting brought back versus the Knicks. I don't know. I don't remember when they started because I know they wore them in the Ray Allen era, I guess.
Yep. It would have been the late 90s, early 2000s, up until I think, because I know Andrew Bogut had them in 05. I want to say maybe like 07-ish to 08, maybe they started the green and red.
But, yeah, with like the TJ Ford days, Andrew Bogut.
Yep. Yeah, they saw both of them.
I liked
90s, early 2000s.
I liked them. Would you think of the purple uniforms?
See, I like the purple and green when they first started them, and like that's like the era that I kind of like grew up in. So I never like had any hate for it, and I feel like a lot of people hated the green and purple like jerseys like growing up, but now that they like made it into the Nike, like people are like, oh my gosh, these jerseys are back. But I never hated them. I think they look really nice. Though I do wish that they did the throwback with the deer on the side, like the green with like the 3 deer coming out of the corner. I would have liked those ones, but I think the purple look nice. It would have been cool if they did like a court, kind of like when they do the their black uniforms with the black court. I think it would have been cool to kind of throw that logo back out there, but I think they look nice. I was a big fan of them.
No, I liked them too. I do think the one of the uniforms they should bring back is like the green uniforms. I think like Brandon Jennings and Michael Redd, some of those guys wore.
Yes,
I think they have to bring those back. And I kind of liked. I think they wore this in Brandon Jennings's rookie season. The red,
like the primarily red jerseys with the green bordering. Yeah, that was 100% his rookie or first 2 years or so.
Yeah, I gotta bring those back. But no, I like the purple uniforms. I am a fan of like some throwback jerseys. I don't really notice if they're bad or not. I just it's uniform, so I don't care that much. But at the same time, it was good to see them pay homage to guys like Andrew Bogut and TJ Ford, Bobby Simmons. I believe Ray Allen and Glenn Robinson wore them as well. So it was just good to see that they're paying homage, and I hope that Milwaukee brings back some more classic uniforms.
Yeah, I think the Nike uniforms, now that they switched a few years ago to Nike, I think they look a lot more cleaner, and because then you get the new style with the old style, and you kind of mix into one. And I think they look clean. Seeing some of the other teams also doing their throwbacks, like the Pistons and the Suns, they look a lot nicer. They look more modern, and I think they're bringing all the retros back, and I'm all here for it.
Agreed. All right. Another Giannis topic, only because of the fact that he was just so dominant last week. So Giannis put together another great performance. Let's see here. 43 points on 6
Yep.
25 shooting. Now, granted, when I watching that Nets game,
That was so frustrating. So frustrating.
watching that Nets game, they didn't have a lot of people to stop Giannis. Basically, they had Royce O'Neal and Kevin Durant. But other than that, it was like, all right, who else you got? Let's see. They tried to throw Ben Simmons on him. That wasn't working.
Yep.
So
You get Nicholas Claxton as well.
But and I've told people this, that if I had to recap the game in like 2 seconds, I would say, well, none of the Nets role players did anything, and Kyrie and KD did all the work, and that is exactly what happened.
Yeah, because you got 33 for Kevin Durant, 27 for Kyrie, and I feel like that's a lot of the Nets games too that I've been watching. It's him or Kyrie scoring the most, and then you got like 10 to 12, and then just nothing after that. But Royce O'Neal, I think, did pretty well. I guess 12 points, but again, it was just Kyrie jump shot, Kevin Durant jump shot, but no one else to stop the Bucks once they kind of made that push near the end of the game. But yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that Giannis had 9 points going to the half, and he ended with 43 points.
And I think what they were talking about on the show, on the post game show, not the post game show, but like the halftime show. Sorry.
Yep.
Is that, oh my God, the Nets are doing such a great job to stop Giannis. I was like, well, there's another whole half to play.
And here we go.
And he just dominated everyone. Like he always does, especially against the Nets. He always has a great game against the Nets. But quick aside, the Nets, I didn't like their offensive strategy confounds me just a little bit, because I think they have great players, but it feels like, okay, as you mentioned, Kyrie jump shot, or hey, let's lob it into KD in the post, and like let's have him take a turnaround.
Yeah, and to me, same with the Lakers, I just don't think they have an offensive strategy. I think they're just go out there and try to score the basket any way possible, which is honestly like what basketball is. But it's like there doesn't seem to be plays, or it's just give the ball to them and hope they make it. And it was like it's been like that with all of Steve Nash as their coach. It's like it can be good, but it could also be sloppy, or it just looks all over the place. And I feel like they're not going to win a lot of games if they don't have some offensive strategy.
No, and like this is like the difference between the two offenses. Like the Bucks do a better job of playing team basketball.
Mm-hmm.
The
Really
Nets
good chemistry.
don't play team basketball at all. There's no ball movement.
Nope.
There's no throwing the ball side to side. It's just, hey, let's give the ball to KD and Kyrie, and let's have them make magic happen.
Yes. And what's annoying though is that the Bucks still can't figure that out, that they're always going to be shooting that. Because I felt like almost every other possession it was a Kyrie or Kevin Durant pull up from like the elbow or just a little bit outside the free throw box. Because Kevin Durant took 23 shots and Kyrie took 21, while everyone else, the highest was 13. That everyone else was 2 to maybe 7. So it was like it's almost like they're expecting it to go, but a lot of the times they still can't, I don't know, figure it out. But yeah, it's the same thing. There's nothing around it, I guess.
Yeah, and and like I said, it was a good win against the Nets. The funniest moment I found about the Nets was that clip of Ben Simmons having a wide open dunk.
And then Kyrie.
Shoot it, Ben!
Yep. And then he like puts his hands over his head and they just kind of run back. I feel like Ben Simmons hate right now is through the roof on social media. I feel like every bad thing that he does, they're posting him. And some people are like, okay, like it's a little too much, but other times it's like it's kind of funny. Yeah, the shoot have been. I didn't notice that when I was watching it. I just again saw the clip of it and thought that was funny.
Oh no, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. And again, like he still hasn't developed. But we talked about that in the first podcast. Still hasn't developed from when he came into the league. So I just don't know what else to say. Look, the Nets don't have a good team. I don't know what people think the Nets having a good team is. They don't have a good team. The Bucks are obviously the far superior team.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it could have been a bigger win for the Bucks if they had other guys step up.
Yes, I agree.
Because I'm looking at the stats right here, they had, I think I want to say Jrue Holiday had a good game. Let's see.
Holiday, 15 points. He
Well,
shot 5 for 18. But he did have 7 rebounds, 4 assists. Sorry, I'm using a new box score, but yeah, they're 15, 7 and 5 or 7 and 4. It's not too bad, just shooting wise, a little off, but I'm not too worried about that because of yesterday.
No, because and then I'm looking at the stats right here, and Bobby Portis had 20 points, which
Mm-hmm.
which it was great for him. But yeah, there wasn't, and we'll talk about this a little more on the lows, but like the Bucks bench, it we'll save that for the
Yeah,
lows.
we'll save it. We'll
We'll
save
save
it.
it for the lows. So we'll move on to the next topic. Jrue Holiday in Saturday's game.
Uh-huh.
34 points, just an all-around impressive performance against the Hawks. What'd you make of Jrue Holiday's performance yesterday?
He looked more comfortable, I would say, shooting compared to some of his other games. I'm assuming he knows that he has shot poorly in the first few games, but he looked more comfortable and more, I would just say, relaxed out there. A lot of those shots he made were kind of tough shots. The step back I know is like one of his signatures when it comes to threes, but he looked more, again, comfortable. He looked a lot more ready for those shots. And I think once he made the first few, he kind of like felt confident with himself and kept going. But honestly, if they don't have that game from him, I don't think they win that game. Because Giannis had 34 points, but it was a lot more near the end, offensive wise. But I think Jrue was able to keep them in throughout the entire game. Same with Brooke as well.
Yeah, Brooke had a big first half. I believe 5 threes.
I think he had 5 threes all in the first quarter. I think it was like he just did not stop.
He did. He could not miss from the first quarter. He cooled off a little bit over the course of
Which
the
is
game,
fine.
which
It'll happen.
which is fine. Yeah, he had a big first quarter, 5 threes. It was just a great first quarter performance from him. But yeah, they were hell bent on stopping Giannis. So Jrue Holiday he just did a great job of like floaters, 3-pointers, just all that other stuff. This the Hawks didn't really have a guy who could stop him because like Trey Young is not really known as an offensive guy or
No,
sorry, a defensive guy.
unless he's
And
open, he's not offensive. Yeah, I agree.
yeah, DeJounte Murray too. He's not really known as a guy who's well. I haven't watched too much of DeJounte Murray's game because he's played for the Spurs for so many years.
That's exactly how I think too. So this is like my first like major experience for him. They said he's averaging like 19 to 20 on the year, so pretty good, but I feel like he could be a lot higher eventually, or just how he plays, I feel like he could score more than 20.
Yeah, and look, we gotta talk about Giannis again because, like I said, they did a mini hack of Giannis. The Hawks did,
Uh-huh.
and for the most part, it worked.
Yeah, it did work. I couldn't watch. I had to rewatch the game, but it was what, like 0 for 2 on free throws and then 1 for 2 and 1, but he misses the free throw. I think they missed maybe 9 free throws, and I would say he was what, like 7 of them. Let me check him really quick. He was 11 for 19. So that's 8 points right there. Obviously, give or take, he makes, let's say, like 6 or more. So he's misses like 3, which is kind of understandable, but yeah, 8 free throws, and that was all almost continuous throughout the second half, especially in crunch time near the end. But it was working for their part, and it almost worked near the end. The old hack of Giannis.
Hack of Giannis. No. And watching that game last night, could not stop Trae Young. He's so underrated. I feel like he should get talked about more than he does, and I get it because he plays in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know where exactly people regard him. I don't know. I don't think he's a top 5 player, but he should be like inside the top 10.
Yeah, I agree. Because watching the game, I don't think he scored in the second half. And I think he did like a Giannis on the net and score like 30 points in the third and fourth quarter combined. Because he was only at like 20 halfway through the third quarter and was able to get 42. But yeah, I don't think I think people don't give him the respect he deserves because some of those shots he takes are very Curry like. Just walk up, take a three, maybe 3 feet behind the 3 point line, he'll drain them. Sometimes he'll miss them, more than often he will, but he has the confidence level where once he makes a couple, he just can't be stopped.
Good. And even Javon Carter was trying to pick up 94 feet. It didn't matter. Like Javon Carter played as well of a defense as you could in a guy, and he just drilled it. And it was from like, I don't know, like 30 or 35 feet.
Yeah, he's quick with it too. So you don't really expect some of those shots to take, which is I think his kind of signature because if he can hit those deep shots and just out of nowhere, I think it'll take him a long way in the league. He had 32 shots, 15 for 32.
But the caveat to that is he is still a bit of a chucker. So
He is, and especially in crunch time at the end of the game, he was just hawking them up.
Hero ball. No, he
Yes.
will, like it's a give him the take him away thing for the Hawks because when he's making them, he can't be stopped, but also he's gonna keep shooting them. Like he's not gonna stop shooting them. I do think his game is diversified since he first got into the league because I feel like he was more of a 3-point shooter when he first got to the league. But look, he can get to the basket. He can hit floaters.
He's a floater kind of guy. Yeah.
Huge floater kind of guy. And like I said, I do think the DeJounte Murray pickup from the Spurs was huge because I think those two complement their games really well. And once Bogdanovich comes back, I think the Hawks will be like a great team.
Agreed.
But like I said last night, the Bucks were just able to hang on for the win. But that was only because obviously Hawks didn't have a lot of scoring in that game outside of Trae Young. So
yeah,
great win for the Bucks, able to hang on, become 5-0.
Yeah, and I forgot both Jrue's brothers were on the Hawks. I knew one of them was, but I think they picked up his other brother recently. But yeah, it's cool to see all three of them on the court together too.
No, it's a good scene. It's a good scene. It's a rare scene too because I think those two are the first three brothers I want to say that
we're on the court at the same time.
Exactly. So, and Justin had a good game yesterday. Had 10. Or sorry, Aaron. Aaron had 10 points. So good from that. All right. Let's get into the lows section of the podcast. Turnovers. I think we're here's the thing with turnovers. I don't think there were a couple games at least, especially against the Nets. And
yes, the Nets was the biggest.
The Nets was the biggest, 19 turnovers, and the
22 fouls too, which a lot of those turned into turnovers as well.
The Nets and the Knicks, I think, were like a huge. Not the Knicks. Wait, hang on. Was the Hawks or
the Rockets? They had 16.
Yeah.
There was a lot of sloppy play midway through like the second into the third.
And I kind of looking at those stats, Giannis had the most, I think, against the Rockets. He had 4 turnovers.
Yep.
And I believe Noah had 3.
Yep, couple 3s and 2s. Yeah, Javon had 3 as well.
So I think that aspect of the Bucks needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah, and a lot of it's like sloppy play where they're either shooting the ball quick. Obviously, that's not a turnover, but they're going too fast, or it's the plays where they hold it whatever team they're playing to a missed shot, and then they're getting the ball, and then it's being stolen right away because they make some pass like across the court, or they're not paying attention to who they're throwing it to, and then they get like Giannis yesterday had a pass near, I don't remember if it was the beginning or the end of the game, but he has the rebound and someone has like 2 or 3 guys on him and he just passes it right to him and it's stolen like immediately. It's just a lot of like sloppy play that is leading to turnover after turnover after turnover. And it's continuous. It's not like 2 in like a couple minutes and then a couple later. It's almost like every other possession. Sometimes it's just a turnover.
Yeah, for sure. And which, again, in the NBA, it's bound to happen. And Giannis is probably going to turn it over more than anybody is because he has probably the ball about 99% of the possessions. Jrue Holiday is also prone to those high turnover games. So
Correct.
it's something that is completely fixable and I think is more bound to happen, especially with those two guys. I think there was one that I watched yesterday, a couple days ago, where Serge Ibaka had the ball and he got it stripped.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, from that standpoint, I think those two guys really got to clean it up. Well, not more so Jrue, but more so Giannis.
Yeah, it'll be if he's if he's like their go-to rebounder and he's the guy who's passing it out or taking it up. I think it's a lot of just more court vision of knowing who's open. Should I pass it or should I just bring it up? And a lot of the times he's passing it when he should just bring it up.
And then with the 3 turnovers with Jordan Nora, I don't know. Sometimes he gets in a mode where he's trying to do too much.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's more so when he's driving in. Like I think he's getting the ball stripped and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think a lot of the guys can kind of see that in him. He's not a big guy where can easily like hold himself down. So I think a lot of it's just slow reactions to his surroundings of where he is, where it leads to a strip. But I think overall from last year for Nora, he's gotten a lot less careless. I would say overall, I think he's kind of getting there, which is a pretty good scene to see. I would say, but yeah, a lot of turnovers and fouls. Some of these fouls that they've been getting have been so petty and just where it's like it's clearly a foul, but it's one of those where it's like, okay, like you could have figured out another way to kind of go around these things. But yeah, the turnovers, man, they're killing me. And they're killing them sometimes too.
true. All right, let's get into the next one. Little contributions from the other guys other than Holiday, Giannis, and Lopez. Look, I understand sometimes we're getting those 12-point games from Grayson Allen, and Wesley Matthews has always been hit or miss. I'm not expecting Javon Carter to put together a 20-point game because that's not his role. But some of those other guys really got to step up.
Yeah, I would say looking at the Hawks game from yesterday, honestly, just kind of the Hawks, Nets, and Knicks. Look at the Hawks game. Grayson Allen had 2 points. He only shot the ball 5 times. He used 1 for 5, 0 for 3 on threes in 20 minutes, giving you 2 rebounds and no assists. So he was just kind of like running around, and he scored once. And then you got Serge Ibaka taking 2 shots in 11 minutes. Bobby Portis 4 for 12. George Hill 0 for 1. Again, a lot of just the offers or 1 for a lot.
Yeah, and look, George Hill, I think coming off the bench, he didn't have a great output, I don't believe, against the Hawks.
No, he had 2 assists and that was it.
He had 2 assists, but he did drop 20 points, I believe, against the Knicks.
George Hill had 12 points on the Knicks and then 12 against the Nets. 23. Sorry, no, not 23. 9 for the Rockets as well. So pretty consistent with his scoring up until this game.
And again, sometimes George Hill can provide offense, sometimes he can't. That's kind of who George Hill is. He hasn't been. There's no injury to note, so he's not hurt or anything.
And he hasn't been bad. I can't hate on that. He only took one shot. So he was, I would assume the 17 minutes was just more of a defensive play near the end of the game because he didn't come in until a little later. But yeah, the bench and Grayson Allen, I think, need to step up a little more. It's nice when you have 34 from Giannis, 21 from Brook, and 34 from Jrue, but then seeing 2 and 2 and 2 and 9, 0, 5, 11, that's not going to win you every single game because if you have a game where Giannis and Jrue don't show up as much, and then hopefully you got to rely on the bench to kind of hold them in if they're kind of staggered. But agreed, the bench is not looking too hot right now. But it'll be nice when Pat comes back.
Not at the moment. And I would like to see, I saw someone tweet this out, I would like to see Marjan get a little bit more run.
Same with Sandro. I don't think he's like actually played. He played in the Rockets game, but that was the garbage 52 seconds. So he hasn't like played yet, and I kind of want to see him get some minutes as well. Because who knows, they could be someone who can help you out a little more. Because Marjan first shot in the corner was a drained a 3, 7 minutes. He was 1 for 1. So I don't know. Who knows if they play him for like 10, 12 minutes. Sandro maybe a little less just because he has Surge as well. But who knows? It's one of those things where you never know until you try it.
Yeah, and it's harder for Sandro to start to get minutes because he fourth string center. I don't think he provides you much on the defensive end. I think he's more of could be a good standalone 3-point shooter.
Yep.
So it would be for sure tough to get. The one thing that I want to see Boone Hoser start to employ. How come Thanasis isn't coming in at the end of first quarters and second quarters anymore?
Yeah, for the defense where he plays like for a minute.
Yeah.
It's been, I feel like that role's been George Hill is what that's kind of like what I've picked up on, or because he's also quick. But yeah, Thanasis, again, same with Sandro, he's only played in against the Rockets for the garbage minutes. But yeah, because last year I know they did if there's like a foul near the end or you got like 1 minute left just to kind of hold them off. But yeah, they haven't done that either, which is, again, kind of surprising.
It is. And yes, it has been extremely surprising to see that Thanasis, that role's been kind of diminished because I don't think Budenholzer has done it since the championship run. I think that's one of those things he needs to bring back because, again, watching Thanasis come into the game just fills my heart with joy because it's just he's always so excited to just get into a game that he's just like he's so hyped. It's one of my favorite clips of him was the playoff series against the Nets when he came in and he was so excited and then Kyrie immediately crossed him over. Look, I'm not saying I want Thanasis to get regular minutes because he's good for defense, like one insane dunk a game.
Yep, that's a specialty. He plays for 2 minutes, but he'll poster someone in that 2 minutes. But they're also at home for, it was like 6 home games in a row. If you bring him in, you know everyone's going to get loud, especially at the end of a quarter. Because again, you have that Knicks game to end the half. They hit that little over half court shot right at the buzzer beater. Maybe throw out the Thanasis in. That doesn't happen. But yeah, I think with the home court advantage for the next few games, I feel like that's like a low key crowd booster if they're kind of like slowing off at the end of the quarter, end of the half. But I don't coach the Bucks.
I don't either. All right, last topic before we get out of here. 3-point shooting this season has been dreadful, 34.7%. I don't think. Now, granted, look, a lot of this is a product of the fact that Chris Middleton and Joe Ingles are,
And Pat too. Pat can hit a couple threes too.
and Pat haven't played yet.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of it is a product of that, but also I would feel like we still have some solid shooters on there to be shooting higher than 34% from three. So what do you make of the Bucks 3-point shooting woes so far this season?
Yeah, I would say the biggest was in the Knicks game because I think at one point they were 4 for 23. And what bugs me about like their 3-point shooting is obviously that's like one of Budenholzer's like main offensive breakdowns, I guess, is to try to get the three ball up. But there's a lot of the times, especially at the Nets game, where they were shooting horrendously from three. And again, the Nets game, it was really slow back and forth. But so many of their possessions were just dribble up. You have 15 on the shot clock, and they're just chucking up threes. Next position, same thing, 3 and 3. And like when they're not going in, I don't think they're figuring out like other ways to score. But I think overall it'll be something that continues to get better because you have Brooke, you have Jrue who's doing well. Javon Carter might hit a few, Bobby, Wesley, not guys who are hitting like 50%, but you have guys that are still doing it. So I think overall it'll get better once you get the more shooting type players out on the court with you. Maybe that's a little confidence booster, but yeah, right now it's not looking good.
No, and I'm looking at the stats. I think Giannis is one of the highest rated. I think Jordan is a little higher than him, but if Giannis, no disrespect, if he's one of your highest rated 3-point shooters,
you got to figure something out.
We don't have many shooters on our team right now. Look, some of those guys are who they are. Like I think Grayson Allen's a pretty decent 3-point shooter. Wesley's hit or miss.
Yep.
Extremely hit or miss.
Same with George Hill. He could also be one of those guys where if he can hit a couple, he is more than capable of doing that because his last stint with the Bucks, he was at one point the number 1 3-point percentage shooter.
Yeah, you said last year with the Bucks?
Yeah, the last time he was with the Bucks, I remember he was number 1 for a while, but also top 3 percentage throughout the league for quite a while too. I don't think it was last year. It would have been before they got rid of him and brought him back. But yeah, it's been kind of disappointing. I would say the biggest disappointment right now on the Bucks is Grayson Allen. It just shooting overall, not even just 3-point shooting, but just shots up overall. 1 for 8, 1 for 6 on threes, because he's their 3-pointer guy when Chris is out in the starting lineup. And when you see him shooting 1 for 6 on threes, and then against the Knicks, he shoots 4 for 6. So again, a good bounce back, but then you get right back into the Hawks game where he's over 3. So his role is to hit threes and not quite doing that at the moment.
Yeah, and again with bigger wings, he doesn't offer you anything on the defensive end either. Especially when he goes up against guys with like the 76ers and the Heat and the Nets who have wings that are a lot bigger than him.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't provide much on that end either. So if he's not hitting threes and he's going up against guys that are a lot bigger than him, there's not a lot that he offers. But the other problem is it's like, who else do you want to go with?
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like they don't have anyone else, so they have to keep relying on him, and he's just not showing up at this point.
Yeah. Evan,
but they have.
Oh, my bad.
Say it again. No, you're good. Go.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
They have the Pistons coming up back to back at home, and then they start their away stint. So hopefully the Pistons back to back tomorrow, and then Wednesday. Hopefully, can be maybe a better shooting game for Grayson, just knowing that he does a little better against not as well teams. But yeah, that's what I got.
Well, the Bucks got 2 games coming up, a couple games coming up. They got the Pistons twice.
Yep.
Um,
we got the T-Wolves.
Ooh, the T-Wolves. Love the T-Wolves.
On Friday, and then OKC back at home Saturday. So we got 4 games this week. Pistons, Timberwolves, Thunder. I say they can go 3-1. Pistons win, and Thunder win. Timberwolves will be a little bit of a challenge. I think I've tried to follow them. They've been doing well. They've lost a couple games, but again, it's the Timberwolves. They have players who, once they're hot, like Edwards and Cat, and now Rudy Gobert. But I can say, at least from this 4-game week, I think they can go at least 3-1. That'll be my prediction.
I hope so. I just don't like those back-to-back games where it's like we played the T-Wolves, we played the Pistons once and then twice.
Yep, and that's half their season series already.
So hopefully they go 3-1. What are your predictions for the 2 games against the Pistons?
I say Giannis. I say both of them. He gets 30. I'm going to say Brook has another incredible block outage, and I think Brook Lopez is a dark horse candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. And I think if he continues this throughout the year and he doesn't get finalist, it's going to be one of the biggest snubs ever, because he is averaging almost 5 blocks a game through 5 games, and it's great to have that back. So I'd say he has that as well. And I think we're going to see Pat or Chris either during the Timberwolves game or the Thunder game is my prediction. I hope I'm correct, but I think one of those games they're going to see Chris or Pat back.
Who would you think they would play? Who do you think you would see first?
I would want to see Chris first, but I think Pat's going to be back first because he had that 3 week, and I think this would technically be his 3 weeks. I remember we were talking about that the last podcast or 2 ago, but I feel like Pat would be someone who would come back and then be one of the first guys off the bench. I'm going to say they're going to push him first before they rush Chris back into the game, or just the season, I should say.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, like you said, I would hope for a couple wins against the Pistons, and then probably lose against the T-Wolves, because that's a really, really good team. So,
but hopefully we're wrong, like we were with the 76ers.
No, and we were semi wrong about the Rockets, because I think we were expecting
a little closer of a game.
It was not.
It was a blowout.
It was a blowout. It was 125-105. The blowout. So, I hope that, hopefully the Bucks can, go 3-1 in the week, and we can all be happy, because I do think they're going to pick up their first loss this week.
Yeah, they're not going to go 82-0.
No,
it's not going to happen. So we're going to lose once soon. So we might as well just get it over with. And I would rather do it against a better team than hopefully they don't lose to the Pistons. I would rather lose to a solid team than a team where it's, you should probably be winning.
Yeah, and and the Bucks have had a few close calls, especially against the Knicks, when they really let them back in that game.
Yep. Honestly, their last 3 games could have ended up in losses, but yes, 100% agree.
So, so Bucks have been only undefeated team so far.
Mm-hmm.
It's hopefully they keep that going, or they might lose this week. Evan, anything else?
I think I'm good. 3-1, go Bucks. We're 5-0 without Chris and Pat.
We'll see you guys next week.